One thing you said, you wish they talked more about the Supreme Court. You said the last time, 2016, when this happened with Merrick Garland, that not only did you want to hold it at an 8-person court through the election, but even beyond. If Hillary got elected, you were willing for it to be a 4-4-8 court. Now you say it's essential that Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed before the election because we need a 9-person court. It could be a constitutional crisis if we don't have it. We need it to adjudicate the election. I mean, isn't that a little cynical?
I think the chances of a contested election and litigation this cycle are enormously high. And we need a method of resolving certainty. I also think, going back to the checks and balances, that the Senate has a role in resisting justices who will damage and undermine the Constitution. And so when I was resisting that, if Hillary Clinton was going to nominate judicial activists, I was going to oppose them. And the reason I was going to oppose them is because I told the people of Texas, I'm going to oppose judges that undermine the Constitution. So it's entirely consistent to say, if you got a president who's appointing the one, I'm going to fight to confirm him. If you got a president who's appointing the other, I'm going to fight not to confirm them.
You just didn't seem concerned about that in 2016.
There is a real difference between what Democrats and Republicans are looking for in Supreme Court justices. Democrats are outcome-oriented at the court. They want their guys to vote their way. They assume what Trump wants and a Republican Senate wants is a justice that's going to vote for Donald Trump.
I think Trump might want that. Just a guess.
What I want the justices to do, if we have that, is resolve the cases according to the law and the Constitution. So I'm looking for a justice who will follow the law.
Finally, Ted Cruz is getting called out for his rank hypocrisy with regard to the Supreme Court. Because while Ted Cruz is out here defending the sacrosanctity of the number 9 on the Supreme Court, you may remember that it was this same guy who crowed about the importance of letting the American people decide which president will pick the next Supreme Court justice just prior to the 2016 election.
But doesn't the United States Senate have an obligation to at least go through the process and have an up or down vote?
Not remotely.
Why?
It has been 80 years since a Supreme Court vacancy was nominated and confirmed in an election year. There is a long tradition that you don't do this in an election year. And what this means, Chuck, is we ought to make the 2016 election a referendum on the Supreme Court.
But now that a Republican president had the chance to name a justice, suddenly Ted Cruz believes that it's oh so important that not a second go by without restoring the Supreme Court to its full capacity, what with it being such a treasured institution.
Your thoughts on what is the right course moving forward?
Well, I think the court, we are one vote away from losing our fundamental constitutional liberties. And I believe that the president should next week nominate a successor to the court. And I think it is critical that the Senate takes up and confirms that successor before Election Day. There's going to be enormous pressure from the media. There's going to be enormous pressure from Democrats to delay filling this vacancy. But this election, this nomination is why Donald Trump was elected. This confirmation is why the voters voted for a Republican majority in the Senate.
And of course, the excuse he uses is that we need a 9th justice because the chances of a contested election are high. But here's the thing, they're only high because his party's candidate is doing everything humanly possible to manifest that reality. It's like if I spent all day promising to burn a building down and then brilliant legal minds like Ted Cruz come in and say that we need firefighters because the likelihood for arson is high. But we already know why. It's because I threatened arson. So what about instead of blindly preparing for a disaster as if it's beyond our control, we go to the root of the problem, which is the person issuing the threats. Or in this case, the person promising to destabilize the election, which is Donald Trump. But he won't because this is what Republicans want. They want Trump to sow doubt and confusion and chaos because they know they won't be able to win on the merits, and so they need to try and steal it in other ways. That's why they're using voter suppression techniques, they're mandating that only ballots that arrive by November 3rd are counted, why they also purposefully slowed down mail service. It is an entire coordinated scheme to try and deprive Americans Republicans of their most fundamental right to vote because they've failed to earn their votes legitimately, so now their only concern is usurping power by any means possible. And I know the big issue now is that Trump wants us to think that we need to have all votes counted by November 3rd, and that whoever is ahead has to be declared the winner. Of course, the reason for this is that more Democrats are voting using mail-in ballots, most of which won't even begin getting counted until election night. So Trump only wants the in-person ballots cast, which will certainly skew Republican, to be counted, because he's not even trying to hide how shamelessly he'll try to win, even if it means only votes favorable to him getting counted. But here's the important thing to remember. Trump can't make up this rule, and the courts can't enforce this rule. So disregard the noise and vote. Another point I want to make regarding this Ted Cruz statement is that he tries to claim that he was willing to oppose any Democrats nominee because Democrats only confirm activist judges, while Republicans' nominees are all originalists. And this is perhaps the most disingenuous talking point of all. First of all judges have a political bend. Any attempts to pretend that GOP judges are just strict textualists are complete BS. If they adhered strictly to the Constitution as it was written, women wouldn't even be able to vote, much less serve as justices like Amy Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court. And beyond that, consider what conservative justices have said from the bench. Alito and Thomas both expressed their opposition to Obergefell, which legalized gay marriage in this country. Pretty sure the Constitution doesn't say anything about marriage being between a man and a woman, but they are activist judges and are only intent on issuing decisions based on their own personal beliefs. Look at legitimate legislation like the ACA, which Republicans have tried and failed to overturn 70 times in Congress before now deferring to the Supreme Court's activist conservative judges to overturn it for them. Republicans want Roe v. Wade overturned despite the fact that it's established precedent, so their only priority is getting it before a 6-3 conservative court that would like nothing more than to impose their own religious beliefs on this country, even though over 70% of Americans support Roe. So Ted Cruz can pretend that Republicans aren't activist judges, but that is wholly divorced from reality. The solution, of course, is to expand the court and rebalance it so that it actually represents the will of the American people. But to even have that opportunity, we should have one singular focus right now, and that is to vote. Vote in such large numbers that the outcome is beyond certain, that there's no doubt as to who is the winner. We need to not only vote Trump out of office, but repudiate all of Trumpism and everything that it stands for. So if you're tired of the Republican Party's shameless hypocrisy, if you're worried about your rights, if you think you should have agency over your own body, or that you should be able to marry whomever you want to marry, if you want more healthcare and not less, then make sure you vote. Make sure your family votes, your friends vote, your coworkers and neighbors and classmates. It takes all of us chipping in, so do your part before you lose your chance. If you like this video, please check out my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I take a deep dive into the week's most important stories and interview major players in politics, including Kamala Harris, Katie Porter, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Eric Swalwell, Mary Trump, Al Franken, Cory Booker, and many, many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.